Hey, what's up, everybody? This is Tony with Lido Loca, and I'm here to talk a little bit about the dark side of cruising. Yeah, so I think the old quote is, even the best laid plans of mice and men go awry, suggesting that no matter how well you've planned, there is opportunities in this crazy life for things to go a little sideways. And that's the case in the news stories today. These are some recent news stories that kind of illustrate that sometimes no matter what you've done to plan for your cruise vacation, things go wrong. So first up is the story of the Norwegian Sun. This took place last month in March of 2018. The Norwegian Sun was repositioning from Miami to Los Angeles on a 14-day cruise. And the goal is once the ship made it to Los Angeles, it would move on up into Canada and go into dry dock for upgrades. Well, here's the deal. They started the upgrades during that cruise. And it was not publicized to the people that were on the cruise. And several news reports are coming out of passengers who had quite the challenge. There's a quote from one gentleman that said he did not know about the construction until a jackhammer started going off just a few feet above his head. He was out on his balcony and maybe they were doing work on the floor above, and boom, jackhammer. He's seen pictures of metal shards that had hit his railing, and all kinds of stuff coming off of that cruise ship, talking about smells and exposure to weird chemicals and basically construction work everywhere. It's you don't know. You got on the ship, and then all this work started happening. I tell you what, if it was right above my room and it was noisy, that would be a little bit of a challenge. Now, Norwegian did acknowledge that there was an issue, but basically they were saying that sometimes to keep the ships in a standard that they like for their product line, they have to do the work sometimes during the cruise. And they did offer a 25% future cruise credit to those folks that were on the cruise that were negatively impacted. But yeah, I could not imagine, I see sometimes people 2-3 years out, plan their cruise vacation, and it's the once-in-a-lifetime trip. I could not imagine being on the once-in-a-lifetime trip and it be a construction zone. And so, but you never know. I mean, the cruise lines have it's kind of their party. They can do that if they want, and I'm sure they calculate the risk of bumming people out and what that might mean for future business. But you never know what you're going to get sometimes when you're on a cruise. I know just in our limited experience, we've been where there's been leaks in the hallway, and so the normal noise of the cruise ship has been amplified by air dryers, sitting, big floor dryers sitting in the hallway running constantly to dry up a leak. So you don't know. And now most of the time your cruise is going to go off without a hitch, but like I said, in life sometimes things go sideways, and so you've either got to figure out what you're going to do if you run into that situation, how you're going to make the best of it. The folks on the Norwegian Sun, their only option was to go through the cruise, and so it would be challenging. And some of the reports that are coming out, you can tell that people were challenged. And another story that came out this week, Royal Carribean has canceled an upcoming cruise for the Radiance of the Seas, citing issues with their Asiapod. And so Asiapod is just, it's a term for like the way a cruise ship engine works. It's a kind of a new technology that's come out in the last 10 to 20 years for propulsion. And so the Asiapod on the Radiance of the Seas not working correctly enough to cancel an upcoming cruise. Again, it's a situation where you are all prepared for your cruise vacation, and just a couple weeks out, you get the email, you get the phone call that says your cruise is canceled. And so folks get a full refund, but it's going to be so hard to redo your vacation 2 weeks out. And so you just never know. It happened to us, actually, but we had a little more time to plan. About 6 months before our cruise, our last cruise, we were scheduled to cruise on the Majesties of the Seas, and a decision was made to put the Majesties in dry dock and do some upgrades, and it just happened to be during the time that we'd already scheduled to cruise on her. And so we got the email from Royal saying, so sorry, your cruise has been canceled. Now, fortunately, there was enough time that we were able to change our plans and book the Carnival Liberty. That's how we ended up on the Carnival Liberty. But yeah, there for a couple weeks, it was a little, a little depressing that, we had all these plans and we started making all these, travel plans to go and travel on the Majesties of the Seas, and then it did not work out. And then in addition, it was one of the first times we'd used a travel agent, and the travel agent was not as accommodating as the cruise line. The travel agent basically said, look, if you do not book another cruise with us, you are going to incur a $100 fee. And I'm not really sure how that worked. I was a little too inexperienced to figure out how to fight it. But yeah, so we lost $100 because the cruise canceled. And so, you just never know. Again, the best laid plans of mice and men often go awry, and cruising is no exception. So you got to get your mind right. You got to, you got to plan that things could go wrong. And I'm not saying be a worrywart. I'm not saying sit around and wring your hands all day long. But you can't also be a Pollyanna. You can't just wander through life thinking everything's going to be chocolate and roses. And so you got to strike that balance somewhere. And in cruising, it's no different. Hurricane season. Let's talk about that. I booked a cruise during hurricane season. And I was sweating it. I was biting my nails all last hurricane season because of the hurricanes that rolled through in September and August, September last year. We were unsure whether our cruise would go off. And then it's such a weird thing because the hurricanes did hit, and you see all this devastation, and you see all the lives that are put in upheaval, and it's really hard to be like, oh, I'm going on a vacation, to a place where people lost everything that they had. So it's a weird thing sometimes. But with that said, I would not dissuade anybody from cruising. More positive things happen than negative. The negative stories are the ones we remember because they stick out mostly in our mind, and I think that's the way our brain is wired. And millions of people cruise every year without a hitch. But at the same time, if you're not prepared for when things go sideways, you could likely lose your mind, and nobody wants that. And so I offer you this news that you might use. To keep yourself in check when things go sideways. So, the dark side of cruising. All things considered, it could be a lot worse. But just be mindful that when you're booking your cruise, sometimes things go wrong. This is Tony with Lido Loca. If you like this story, please give it a thumbs up. Don't forget to subscribe to the YouTube channel with the notification bells on. Come join us over at the Lido Loca cruising community on Facebook. A lot of fun. And even over there, you see some of the challenges that people have and how they've dealt with them. And usually it's really positive examples of what to do when things go sideways. And all of our social media links are in the description below. And I will say until the next time, we'll see you on Lido.